So I'm sure a lot of you have heard about Peter Parker's new face in the Spider-Man remaster. This has caused a lot of uproar in the Spidey fandom, and it's caused a lot of grief for the devs over at Insomniac. And while I don't think the new face is as good as the old design, I also don't think the devs deserve near as much shit as the fans are giving them. Because if my theory is right, the new face isn't even their fault. Okay, so hear me out. Spider-Man PS4 started development in 2014, and it was released in 2018. And what was happening in 2014? The release of Amazing Spider-Man 2. See where I'm going with this? And then what happened in 2016, halfway through the game's development? The release of Civil War. So by the time it was 2018, Spider-Man Homecoming was already out, rendering the Garfield-looking Peter slightly irrelevant by standards of corporate synergy.
Damn it! This is all your fault, Norman, you son of a...
Assuming that Insomniac was casting actors for the role in 2014 or 2015, they had no way of knowing what Peter would look like in the MCU because Tom Holland wasn't cast yet. So when they were casting Peter Parker, they more or less had to go off of what people were used to at the time, Andrew Garfield. And before you say that the Spider-Man PS4 model doesn't look like Andrew Garfield, the animated and video game versions of these characters always borrow from whatever Spider-Man movies are popular at the time. Consider Spectacular Spider-Man, and then look at Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. They both have the same mole below their left eye. So obviously when they're adapting these characters, they at least take a little bit of inspiration from whatever movie version is out at the time. So why would Spider-Man PS4 be any different? Now let's fast forward a little bit.
These timelines are so confusing.
Remember last year, before the world was on fire, when the only thing we had to worry about was Spider-Man leaving the MCU for his own Spider-Verse? Well, a part of the negotiations to make sure that Spider-Man 3 took place in the MCU involved Spider-Man becoming a Sony exclusive from that point forward. Sony wanted to claim that Spidey was every bit as much a first-party character as Cole or Nathan Drake, but they can't really do that if Spider-Man shows up on Avengers for Xbox One, even though his own game is a console exclusive. So some backroom deals happened, Disney and Sony reworked the deal behind the scenes, now Spider-Man is back in the MCU and fans are happy again. But there's more to these deals than just what makes the headlines for these shitty clickbait comic news sites. So much happens that fans are never aware of because it goes completely unmentioned until years later.
It's called compartmentalization. Nobody spills the secrets because nobody knows them all.
And I think Peter's face changing for the remaster was a part of that deal. Now keep in mind, I don't have any real proof for that. This is just a tinfoil hat fan theory.
You're making your own hat. Amazing.
Disney knows that Spider-Verse is an easy cop-out for Sony to pull Holland and do whatever they want outside of the MCU. And I think that having multiple future iterations of Spider-Man all look like the same person might be Marvel's way of countering that before it ever happens.
I told you this before. I am always one step ahead.
Maybe. I'm not gonna lie, this is where the essay got kind of rambly and my argument kind of falls apart a little bit. But given the new model's resemblance to Holland, and the old model's resemblance to Garfield, and the fandom's utter meltdown, I felt like I just had to put this one out into the ether. So in short, no. I don't believe that Insomniac recasted the mocap actor because of the bone structure in Yuri Lowenthal's face. I just think that was the easiest excuse they could claim without people calling them out on it. But I also don't think that Insomniac is allowed to tell us the truth about this either. Keep in mind that Insomniac was bought by Sony last year, which will probably keep their lips sealed even tighter than before. Honestly, it's just a shitty situation all around, and I wish people would stop harassing the folks at Insomniac over it. I just really don't think it's their fault. Especially when, in my opinion, the fault lies more at the feet of Sony and Disney than Insomniac or any individual developers. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up. I talked about this with a few other comic tubers like Evan, and I think he's making a video of his own on the subject, so if you get a chance, you should really go check that out.
The first impression that everyone is having, including myself and Luke, is that, what else? He looks like Tom Holland. It looks like a Tom Holland deepfake, and it just feels incredibly distancing from the original version we caught of Peter in the first game.
I'd like to thank my supporters on Patreon, and also remind you to like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. What's it gonna hurt? You can always unsubscribe if you don't like the next video, but if you made it this far watching what I consider to be one of my shittier scripts, then there's a good chance you'll actually like one of my good ones. So you can check out one of my better videos in one of these playlists. With all that being said, I've been Swim Team Captain 7, signing off.